Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into a special edition of the Batter Up podcast, sponsored by the Dugout of Millwood here on the Sports Insanity Network. Mike and the old ops guy with you. And like we said, today's a special episode because today, one of the all time great New York Mets will have his number enshrined in Mets history as the Mets will retire number 5 for David Wright. Old Ops guy, how are you? And are you ready for today?
You know, uh, David Wright, I saw play from his first time up in the league and watched him all the way through his career. I'll be a little bit emotional during it. It's one of the best baseball players I ever saw play the game. And as anyone knows, anybody who plays for one team their whole entire time, I give more respect to than anything. But that number is being enshrined, and it'll go up right with Mike Piazza and Doc Gooden, who all got their numbers retired, and it's going to look nice. The thing is, I think MLB teams have to start using triple digits because most teams are running out of single digits to use.
The weird one is a team like the Yankees, how they haven't gone to a triple digit yet, but we'll digress. So today we're going to talk a lot about David Wright. We're going to talk a lot about, to be honest, injury that forced him to retire. But we're going to talk a lot of positives because David Wright was two things. Well, he's a lot of things, but two things he was the beginning of a sign of hope. Because if you go back in time, the New York Mets after the 2000 World Series, if there was one word to describe them, they sucked. And when David Wright came up in 2004, we played in 69 games, it was a sign of the future. Because David Wright, we can talk about how great he was, but it was legitimately the beginning. Because that next offseason, they brought in Carlos Beltran and Pedro Martinez. And for someone like me, I can't speak for Mark, but for someone like me, I wasn't alive in 86. I was too young to appreciate 2000. So those teams from 2006 to 2008, despite them not winning, I'll take those teams because they could kick ass.
That 2006 lineup was
Oh,
one of the best lineups in Mets history, never to go to the series. When you, like Mike said, we had Beltran, Delgado, you had Wright, you had LaDuca, Sean Green. I mean, that's just to name a few. And there was a lot more to
Reyes
it.
at the
Pedro
top.
Martinez, right? Also Reyes. Forgot it. You forget the very good speedster. But David started coming about. He came out of his shell in 2005 when he batted 306 with 42 doubles and 27 home runs. For a sophomore season, that's pretty good. You
Oh,
look at David's career. Go ahead, Mike.
no, go ahead.
Uh, when you look at David Wright's career, you don't look at the home runs. You don't need to look at the hits. The average is nice. He batted 296 for his career. I mean, that's better than most people can say. But nowadays, it's not about the stuff you do on the field. It's also the stuff you do off the field. And David Wright, like Derek Jeter, was never in the news for the wrong things. If you wanted to take two of the most cleanest players in baseball during Mike's and my time, David Wright and Derek Jeter lead the way.
I'm happy you bring up a guy like Jeter because we'll get into Wright being the captain and stuff like that in a
Right.
few minutes. But we, for Met fans, there's never been a lifelong Met. Whoever you think of in history, Tom Seaver was not a lifelong Met. Mike Piazza, not a lifelong Met. Keith Hernandez was not a lifelong Met. You
It was
know,
Gary Carter.
neither is Gary Carter. Neither was Doc or Darryl.
Good, right.
You know, David Wright is the only guy so far who was a lifelong Met from beginning, middle, and end. And like I think you said it at the top, those guys who play for one team, there's a special connection between them and the fan base. Because I'll never forget the winter, I think it's of 2011, where both Wright and Reyes are free agents.
Mm.
And I was sitting there going, knowing how the Wilpons operate at the time, there's a chance neither one's back. And I'm thinking to myself, oh boy, what happens then? And thankfully, David Wright wanted to stay and he stayed. And again, I think that set the table for what eventually happened in 2015, which, by the way, we'll get into that in a few minutes. So, kudos to David Wright on just. I think David understood the fan base, and he had to be the guy, homegrown,
Yeah.
and homegrown, and he took personally with the fan base. You brought up numbers before. This is off Baseball Reference. He came up in 04 and hit 293. 2005, he hit 306. '06, he hit 311. '07, 325. '08, 302. '09, 307. And then 2010, he hit 283. Oh, then
And
20,
his worst year being, and 2011 was the major down year for him.
2011 was a down year. He also got concussed off that Matt Cain fastball.
Yep.
They bounced back in 12, hit 306.
And then 14 at 307.
Yeah.
13 at 307.
The trajectory for him for the injury was Cooperstown. The 300 averages, the two gold gloves, two silver sluggers, and
Ward, sorry, go ahead, Mike.
no, and think about if City Field wasn't a monster when it first opened, the home runs would be up.
Yeah, I mean, Shea Stadium was wide open. Ball traveled nicely there, but it was old. And trust me, watching it go, it was a hard moment. I went to opening day at Citi Field with my wife. We saw David Wright's 3-run home run in the seventh. I thought the stadium was going to come down that night. How loud it was. However, I do remember Mike Pelfrey giving up a first pitch home run to the moron. But David Wright throughout his career has been two things: consistent and patient. It's hard in the MLB when you're a caliber player like he is, and there's not something on that ring finger that should be. One of the all-time great Mets, not to get a shot at a ring, is David Wright. And statistically, Mike just went through the numbers with you and us, and we saw it. He didn't strike out a lot. He had a couple of bad years, but he did not strike out a lot. Um, Him, like Pete Alonso, seemed to always get hit. Wasn't a triples guy. But there's one thing he knew how to do. He knew how to make contact with the ball and get the runners moving. That was what David Wright was known for. Yeah, he brought power when he came up to the plate. Everybody knew he can hit a home run, but his specialty was gap to gap and get the ball in and get those, as Mike had mentioned, yeah, the ducks on the pond that Keith Hernandez likes to say, get them swimming home. That's the difference between a player like David Wright and
Well,
see, I really don't. I'm trying to think of the right person to compare him to right now. And I would have to say it's Arenado. Arenado said he's not leaving St. Louis. He'll finish his career there. But if you looked at Arenado's numbers, we know Arenado had a great career. His numbers are also starting to fall off. But David Wright, as you said, we'll get into that in a minute, had to retire for other reasons. But Arenado is also showing the decline. So by 2018, when David officially announced it would be his final, we all knew it was an end of an era.
I mean, just franchise numbers. He's top 10 in average, on base, slugging, stolen bases, and now home runs. He's third because Pete Alonso just jumped him.
Yeah.
But he's also first in hits, runs, doubles, uh, total bases, walks, and extra base hits. He, I just want to go back because when you think of what we just said when he first came up, there was Beltran and Delgado, and he
Yep.
didn't have to be the guy, but he was the guy. He was the guy in a big spot you wanted up.
The Mets did everything to build around him as well.
Yeah.
Something we were all surprised about the Wilpon, as Mike pointed out. You had Beltran, Delgado, you had Sean Green, Paul LaDuca, and that's just naming a few. You could go on and on, but that lineup was one of the deadliest Mets lineups never to go to a series, and that was 2006 when we all thought it was a very good chance.
Yeah, we won't go into what happened after that, but
No,
and it was just it's such a shame. And yeah, I'm going to fast forward a bit. Um, we mentioned the Matt Cain fastball that got him. Obviously, it wasn't intentional. Matt Cain was one of the better pitchers of his era. But I want to fast forward to 2015 because 2015 David was having those back issues. If we remember correctly, it's on a tag with Carlos Lee of the Astros, where he dives to make a tag, which is still
yep,
such a freaking epic play.
yeah,
But David's back acted up. He was feeling great. And I remember being in college in August. The Mets are in Philadelphia. The Mets are rolling. And I see online David Wright's coming back today. I'm like, wait, what? Didn't expect it, didn't think of it. Have you watched the documentary that aired on SNY the other night?
it was
It was
great.
so good. He told then manager Terry Collins, "You don't have to play me tonight. I'll only play against lefties if you want." And Terry Collins tells him he's batting third. And his first at bat, he goes bridge in Philadelphia.
Yeah,
And I'm just,
Dave,
oh,
David Wright over his career talking about plays had made some of the MLB top playlists over the
oh,
time.
the play in San Diego. Oh,
That's the one I'm going to.
yeah.
The of and not that he hasn't made other spectacular plays, but this one just burned an image in my head and I can never forget it. Um, it was a ball that was hit off the end of the bat, and on any other day of the week, this falls in between third base and left field, and which would have only constituted as a single. Well, David Wright became Superman at that point, as he literally lunged out while the ball's still coming down and catches it with his left hand in the air and hitting the ground. It was one of the more spectacular plays I have ever seen in my lifetime. I mean, the Ken Griffey Bravo of a home run kind of burns in a little bit better. But for a Met, David Wright, oh God, everything about him screamed New York. Again, as I also pointed out earlier, he was never in the news for the wrong reasons. And screw the Wilpons, but they did right by him at least, giving him the contract he deserved to keep him here.
What David Wright was for he was the face of the franchise at a time when the franchise needed it. And when I say the franchise needed it, was because they did stink the early 2000s after the World Series. But most importantly, David's arrival, I think, was just between him and Reyes was excitement. And the Mets hadn't had excitement around them.
I mean, when you just bring up Reyes and Wright, remember the other half of that infield was Alfonso and Olerud.
I mean, those, well, those guys were great. And then, I think, I don't, they talked a lot about in the documentary, the veterans when Wright came up, Cliff Floyd,
Yeah,
um, Al Leiter, you know,
Schrader went to the Yankees.
well, his son now pitches for the Rangers. And,
Yeah.
David said he learned a lot from those guys. And then he wanted to pass the torch. So guys like Jacob deGrom and those young pitchers. But the ultimate thing was, and you brought up also the first home run in Citi Field history. I'm going to go back to 15 for a minute. Game 3 of the World Series. The guy, the moment, and I know people don't love him, but it's an epic call by Joe Buck. And I tell you, for that team to get as far as it did was actually a little reminiscent of last year's team.
Well, that's the scary point. We'll get to that in 1 second. What do you think, before we get to that, was David Wright's most memorable play? Now, yes, that over the shoulder catch ranks up there, but I have one that's other in my mind. And why I say it, I'll give you time to think. So, David Wright, the Mets versus the Yankees has always been, no
Other
matter what
than
year it is, it's always been a big rivalry, no matter how many ways you want to look at it. And I had just gotten home from work. It was about 8:15, 8:30. Turned on the game. It was a good game too. And then you have Mariano Rivera in, and better than 90% of the time when Rivera comes in, he closes the door. Mets 2 on. David Wright comes up. Third pitch, he hits one so deep to center field that Bernie Williams was playing so far in, there was no chance for him to get it. And David walked it off against the Yankees, but not a home run walk-off triple. That was another one for me.
I believe, wasn't it Damon?
Was it Damon?
I think it was
Was it
Damon.
Williams? Okay. All right. So there I'm wrong. It
But
was Johnny Damon, not Bernie
I
Williams.
mean that play was awesome. The home run in Philly, the home run in the World Series.
Yeah.
He was also the one thing about David Wright, and I don't think he got enough credit for it until he got hurt. His defense was really something. He just couldn't win the Gold Glove every year because third base of the National League was him, Ryan Zimmerman. It was
Yeah,
the end of
it's the
Chipper.
who's of who. Yeah, and Larry,
If
yes.
Larry was still around, he also had the big hits for Team USA in the WBC.
The
I
home
mean
run.
that was big. But the thing I took away from the documentary, which makes me love David Wright even more, was he's just like us. He hates the Phillies. Like that to me was like, but we see it all the time. Like guys are on opposing teams, they're hugging and hanging out and whatnot. No, David Wright. If I get to first place base, I'll say what's up to Ryan Howard. But Jimmy Rollins, I hate. Chase Utley, I hate.
Oh, no, that Chase Utley is like a curse word, so we now can't expletive now.
But
We don't mention the
David Wright was one of us. He bled the orange and blue. To your point, he through and through was one of us. And, I think the Jeter comp is a good one, mainly because it's the same city. But
Mhm.
I'm also going to go to another superstar. It's also a little bit like Mike Trout. David was loyal,
Yes.
and David's loyalty, you know, was something that I think was so special because he probably could have gotten paid more. And I think that was
Probably.
on the documentary the other night.
It
But
was
he
proposed, yeah.
but he wanted to stay. He wanted to be a Met, and it set the table for guys like Curtis Granderson to come in. And then, how
Grandy.
Sandy Alderson and company, they were able to build that 15 team. So, and there's one of two things I would like to hear today. And if it comes from David, it comes from David. The first thing would be remember, he is the captain. He was the last Met captain. I wonder if they make an announcement with him passing the torch down to Francisco Lindor because he's going to be the next captain, we would assume.
You would think so.
The other thing I've wondered, and I don't think this one's happening, this is more long shotted. The long term deal for Pete Alonso gets announced by David Wright, making Pete a Met for life, just like David was.
If that happens, I'll buy you a burger.
I'm telling you, it's not likely, but
No, but I mean,
it'd be
even I
great.
would love to see that. And since you're calling it 5 hours before it's actually going to happen, or 4 hours, that is, or three, two, one, I don't know. I haven't looked at the clock.
This is
But
just from the Mets Twitter. If you're going to the game,
if,
be in your seats by 3:15.
okay, so that means it starts at 4. So we got 5 hours until it comes on, which is fine.
So
And, I've been watching the Mets a little bit longer than Mike. We both grew up very big Mets fans and Mets orientated houses. How Mike is a Dolphins fan and I'm a Cowboys fan, it doesn't make sense, whatever. That being said, we both share the passion for the same baseball team. And trust me, if you read some of our conversations going back and forth, they get interesting. Nevertheless, if one thing the Mets know how to do is bring out a star player, and we're saying goodbye today, not that he died or anything, but the fact that there's no going to be no more comeback that we were all hoping for. We do know that he has been offered a job with the Mets in-house. Of what title or whatnot, we don't know. That could be announced today.
he's like an advisor or something, they said.
That's what it was, but they said there was going to be something more substantial. So he might be going scouting, head of scouting, stuff like that. So, I mean, that would be a possibility, but I don't think you can ever forget David Wright and what he has done for this Mets team, rightfully show why he's getting his number retired.
Well, for me, the thing about David Wright will always be this. I don't like playing the what if game because of the injuries. We know if he was fully healthy his whole career, he'd probably be on a trip to Cooperstown at some point.
He will make Cooperstown, but it isn't going to happen to 5 inning. I'm sorry to say
But
that.
he'll always be, to quote Dead Poets Society, "Oh, Captain, my Captain."
Number one.
And
Just so you all can go ahead.
credit Steve Cohen for doing this pretty much ASAP.
Well, they did it last year for Gooden and Strawberry.
Right.
So David got what he deserves and more.
All right, before we close out, I want to ask you this.
Go
I
ahead.
don't have numbers in front of me. This is
I
just
do.
straight opinionated.
Got it.
Who do you think will be next to have their number retired? Or who, excuse me, who do you think should?
Who do you think should is the better question? Fonzie. Edgardo Alfonso.
If you, oh, you're gonna go Fonzie, okay?
Yeah. I mean, I can think of a few, but the one who is most direct, and especially what he's done for the Mets farm hands and coaching and whatnot, Edgardo Alfonso should be the next Mets number retired.
Okay, I have no problem with that. I was thinking maybe Reyes would be that guy. I'm not sure, but the other guy I've also thought about was Gary Carter, based on how
Wow.
instrumental he was
I
for
never even
86.
thought of that fact. God, I never even thought of the fact that his number's not retired.
Yeah, that was that's a big one. And then the other thing I wanted to do, and then we'll close out with just an opinion on David. We'll finish this quickly, because I'm presuming we both have him in our top five all time Mets.
Yes.
So just run through your top five all time, and let's see where David ranks.
Okay. Well, number one is Gary Carter. Always will be. I learned to hit by watching him and whatnot. I learned to play the position for 22 years. Gary Carter is one. Mike Piazza is two. I wanted him as a Met more than anything. And when I heard he was being traded to Florida, I knew it was happening. Just couldn't put a pinpoint on it. David Wright falls in third all time for me. One of the hardest working ball players we've ever seen on the field, and we just talked a lot about him. Enough said. Number four is a little bit out there, but it's Mookie Wilson. When you first went to the stadiums in the 80s, you didn't have people giving out different types of cheers. But when Mookie Wilson came out, the whole stadium went in on the moo. So that was brought in. And then to me, David Cohn, a great pitcher from the 80s. Did play for a couple other teams, but was one of the pitchers responsible for 86.
Okay. For me, I've got Piazza at one. He was the first ball player I really fell in love with. Piazza one. I put David at two. David Wright, because again, that's my childhood. That's my,
Right.
the guy you wanted to be like. Three, I've got Pete. I it sounds a little weird, I know, but again, there are certain people I couldn't put on this list because of stuff they did. I can't. We'll not get into who, but Pete at three. I want him to be the next David Wright and be a Met for life. 4,
Well, that's what I mean. Your stand, I would love to. Go ahead.
4, I've got Jose Reyes. If there was ever a lightning strike to start a game, it was Jose Reyes. And he played a pretty good
Mm.
shortstop. And 5, I got the guy you mentioned before. I got Fonzie. An honorable mention. The most underappreciated player in New York Mets history. The other guy they should need to retire is number. Bartolo freaking Colon.
Oh, hello.
He
That home
homered
run in
off of
San
James
Diego.
Shields.
In San Diego. I
Oh,
remember I just turned on the TV and it happened. I was like, "Wow!"
no. Uh,
Well,
Look, today's going to be a special day for us Bet fans. Today's a special day for the Mets organization. And today is a day of celebration because we get to celebrate our guy. We get to celebrate the guy who, in my opinion, changed a little bit of this franchise. And again, talk about the injury or whatnot and the trajectory for the Hall of Fame. Doesn't matter. Today, what matters is our captain gets enshrined in the Mets lore as one of the all-time great New York Mets. So congratulations to David. Well done by the Met organization. And go ahead. I see you
yeah,
want.
I just want to build off your one thing. You said for David Wright to make Pete Alonso. No, I say for David Wright to hand over the title to Lindor as captain. So I built that off of what you said.
No,
So
no,
it's not like I
I
just came up with it.
I get it. I,
So,
listen, I'm excited again.
yeah.
If you're going, be in your seats by 3:15, which I guess means they're starting it around 3:15, 3:30.
The game's what, a 4:05 start today?
4:10, I believe.
4:10. So yeah, by 3:30 they'll get started.
Yeah, so what we'll do tomorrow for Batter Up is we will recap the day. We'll also talk a lot about the All-Star game from Tuesday,
Okay.
but that's tomorrow. Today, it's all about number 5. If you're going, have fun. If you're watching it on the television like us, appreciate the moment.
Hmm.
Is there someone you're looking forward to? Like, hopefully, this person is there.
Well, you said him. I said Jose Reyes as he came up the entire way with him.
I hope Murph is there. I hope Daniel Murphy's there. Talk about running 2015. Murph, baby.
Yes.
Oh, all right.
He
Everyone,
swung a nice bat.
he did. You're welcome, Cubbies. All right. That'll do it for this shortened edition of the Batter Up podcast, sponsored by the Dugout of Millwood. Celebrating David Wright today. Again, tomorrow we'll be back usual time. We'll talk a lot about the All-Star game. We'll talk a lot about David Wright and get into some other stuff as well. But follow us on the socials: Facebook, the Sports Insanity Network; Twitter, S Insanity Real. Go to the website, thesportsinsanitynetwork.com, for great blogs, vlogs, planes, trains, and automobiles. For the old ops guy, I'm Mike Rifkin. We will see you all tomorrow. But today, we celebrate number 5. So we'll talk to you all tomorrow.
Catch you on the flip side.